Okay, so if you're a US American, you're gonna run into this issue when you're trying to move abroad or when you're trying to move to Europe. And I'm also including Switzerland, and I know what I'm talking about because I've lived in Switzerland before for 5 years. And, I am from Austria, so I know the laws here too. And I'm married to a US American and have been for almost 18 years. I have kids that have dual citizenship. And so let me talk to you. You're gonna run into an issue when it comes to trying to open up any type of bank accounts, trying to do any types of investments, etc. You have to, as a US American or as someone that's a green card holder or tied in other ways to America, you have to jump through so many hoops in Europe in order to open up a bank account or anything else. And I've seen a few TikToks here online or a few other videos on social media of Americans that were not aware of that before they moved abroad. So I thought I'm trying to spare you all of the pain or preparing you for the pain of bureaucracy that you have to go through in order to establish your life here in Europe. And so this all has actually a name, and it's called, really funny name, it's called fatca, and I hope I pronounce it correctly, but it's in essence FATCA. And that essentially is an acronym and stands for the Foreign Account Tax Compliancy Act. From the US, it was established in 2010. And so this is pretty much everywhere in the world, because if you're a US citizen, and that's really, really just particular to you, and I know because I'm not, and so I have a different passport, and so crazy, but it forces that fatca, it forces essentially every bank, and I think investment institution as well, but please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, in the world to essentially report on US persons, US nationals back to the IRS in their home country. Yeah. And if a bank does not comply with this and the IRS finds out about it, they're going to slap that bank, regardless of where they are in the world, with a 30% withholding tax. Or I should say, on US source transactions, of course. So you know why this creates hoops? You can probably already envision it. It's because every bank now has to go through and sign a whole lot more paperwork in order to take on an US American client and deal with them. Lawyers and auditors have to especially check the forms if they have US clients in that bank. And to be honest, and we've had that before, if you're trying to open up an account or something like that as a US American at smaller banks, then they are going to turn you away because they're just simply not going to make as much money from you, and the administrative cost in order to deal with you, to be honest, is way higher than they want to deal with. So they're going to turn you away, and they have every right to turn you away, and that happened to us before as well. So you probably have a better shot at going to big, large banks, right? Which, to be honest, would be probably my best hack or tip, for you. And it kind of sucks at the same time, because just like in America or in the USA, and I've lived there also for 13 years, sometimes the smaller banks, they give you better rates, right? You can kind of talk with them more. Sometimes you can finagle better interest rates, whatever it might be, right? But if you go to those big giant corporation banks, you're like a tiny fish in the ocean, and they don't really care about you, but they're gonna take you on because you do have the extra money to kind of deal with that, and they're used to it. And to be honest, obviously the IRS is aggressive because America needs its money. As we all know, not just America, of course, sorry, but they're aggressive, and the banks know that, and they're pretty much worried about it, or just annoyed by it, concerned by it, whatever you want to call it. And so, yeah, and they have to make sure that also you are doing your job correctly as a US citizen or a green card holder, and you are filing correctly the taxes every year, because you have to, because if you're a US citizen and you're living abroad, you still need to file your taxes and pay them even though you're not living anymore in the United States of America, which is also a thing that is only true for you if you are a US citizen. And I don't know if you're aware of that, but just something to point out as well, because it's double the work, double the headache, just something to be prepared for. And one thing that honestly annoyed me the most, while I was able to have access in Switzerland to certain types of investment accounts, ETFs, whatever it might be, right? Packages, there's so much crap. But my kids, right, because they have dual citizenship, they were not allowed to have access to those. And then you have to think about something, if you're really living, and that's why I so intergenerational or cross-border generational wealth building right now. So if this is you as well and you're interested, follow this account. I'm gonna post a whole lot more on that. But you have to think about that, because if you're thinking about moving abroad to Europe and then you want to establish a life here and you want to eventually retire, what are actually your retirement options, right? Like it sounds pretty sweet right now to buy one of those very cheaper, houses that you have to restore in Italy or France, whatever the offers are right now. There's a bunch of them, and come to Europe, have a solar life, have, lower living costs and all this kind of stuff. But then what are you going to do if you retire? Like, how is your life going to look like? What are your investment options? And I think that's something that you want to really be looking at as well. And, because otherwise you're stuck with just vanilla options like my husband was, and that's not going to cut it. Or you're really looking honestly into like more cross-border wealth building, and that's a whole niche that surprise, surprise, are not going to teach in school and stuff like that. Can you tell I've gotten a little bit cynical? But it's just interesting, and it's important to know, and especially if you have kids and they have dual citizenship, if you and your partner are from different countries, I think it's so important to learn all of those things. And yeah, check it out. Fatca. Interesting name, more. Follow for more.